I began asking questions, and I began asking every question that I had ever wanted to know the answer to. And as soon as I would think the question, I would receive this download of information, and it would be the answer to my question plus how that answer fits in with everything else in the universe. And I know that sounds like such a huge exaggeration, but that's really what it was. And as soon as I would get that download, I would ask more questions and get more downloads. And I began expanding at the speed of light. My consciousness was expanding and expanding and expanding, just like whew, until I encompassed everything that exists, or everything that it was possible for me to encompass. I felt like everything that exists is inside of me, and I knew everything. And when I was at my most expanded, I saw the key to life, the reason why everything has to be the way that it is. And it was so ridiculously simple that I laughed at it and I said, how could I forget this?
Okay, my guest today is Melissa Denyce, who is the host of the YouTube channel Love Covered Life podcast, where she interviews people who have had near-death experiences, and she shares her views beyond traditional religion from the perspective of her near-death-like experience. And she wants you to have a relationship with the divine. So welcome. Thank you for being here, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Lori. And thank you for that introduction. That was just perfect. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad. So, Melissa, why don't we start with the pre-birth memories that you've had, and then we can move into your other experiences.
Okay, sounds great. So I was born with some memories that I did not understand. I had no framework to understand them, let alone try to describe them, to ask somebody about them. But these memories were so deep and so deeply ingrained into who I was. It was like they made who I was. They are who I am, and they're the most real thing about me, and they really have driven everything about my entire life. And as a child, I was really connected to them. So they're very difficult to describe because it's not like it is here in the three-dimensional world where you um, experience things in a time sequence, or it's not like I have a vivid visual memory of what they were. It's more like feeling is the best way I can describe it. But this feeling is so much more real than anything we experience here. And I'll do my best to describe it. I mean, honestly, love and light. And the word that always comes to my mind is this hurricane of light. It was like there was these columns of light just swirling around me, and the columns were made up of this overwhelming unconditional love, like just this hurricane of love and complete bliss. I like the word that you use to describe it, excruciating ecstasy. It is all.
It fits.
Yes, I mean, it completely takes up your entire awareness. It's everything that is real to you. You can't think outside of it at all. And it is absolute perfection. And it's also, okay, this is where words really start to fail me, but it's like it's math and music and movement and color and patterns and geometry, and it's everything moving in perfection.
Mhm.
And the music, I remember very clearly, it was music. It was like the entire universe was singing this grand symphony, and it was just complete ecstasy and bliss. And that's the most powerful memory that I have. There's a lot of other smaller things that I can remember that I can share if you want me to, but
Yeah,
that's
I do want you to share. These are fascinating. I mean,
okay.
other than Christian Sundberg, there aren't very many people who have talked about remembering pre-birth memories.
Right. Yeah, it's not as common as near-death experiences. I do remember a dark place, which I'm assuming this is the same place that near-death experiencers call the void,
Hmm.
but so dark and so peaceful. And when you're in that place, it's like you're folding in on yourself. It's like it's a place of healing, like a womb. I don't know if your viewers are familiar with Joe Dispenza, but how he describes the unified field of this rich, pregnant womb, this place where all potentials exist. That's what it felt like. And again, the music is the strongest memory that I have of it. And in this place, the music is so calming. It's like voices singing, but it's not, it's like the universe is singing to you, but it is voices and it's just for you. And it's like these soothing voices that are so soothing, it's almost like they're whispering to you. And the best way I can describe it is if anybody has ASMR, which is this condition where if you hear certain sounds or experience certain sensations, you'll get this tingling sensation in your body and this euphoria in your brain. That's what it was like. Just so deeply soothing and perfect. Anyway, so that's another memory that I have.
Ooh, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you have any music that you've come across in this lifetime that even come close, or you hear it and you're like, oh, that reminds me of this?
Yes, because I'm constantly searching for it. So I do have some links I can send you if you want.
I would love to. Okay, I'll put that down in the show description because I think everybody would be curious of what does the universe's music sound like. And you mentioned something else. You said it seemed like this was a song that was designed specifically for you. So do you
Yes.
think that it would be or feel different to each soul that experienced it?
That is a good question, and I never thought about that before. But I do think just like how NDEers will describe that everything was specifically designed for them, like the environment they found themselves in and the people they saw and the experiences they had. I suspect you're probably right that everybody experiences exactly what they need.
Wow. Well, maybe that's why we feel so connected to music here, because music is just so prevalent in so many people's lives. I know it's played
Mm.
a hugely important part in my life, but maybe that's why, because we're trying to connect with something that just is so familiar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Music is absolutely divine.
I love that. Okay, that's amazing. What else do you want to share about it?
Okay. So another memory that I have is of choosing my hair color. And this is one that I had very clearly, even as a young child. I just always knew that I chose red hair. And the reason why I chose it was to keep me on track because I didn't want to forget that I was here to learn unconditional love in some situations that were going to be difficult for me.
Okay, can you elaborate on that? So to you chose it. So why would having blonde hair or brunette hair not have the ability to keep you on track the way that red would? Can you explain that?
That's a good question, and obviously, I don't mean to make it sound like red is better than
No,
blonde or any
no, no,
other
and I didn't
color,
take it
but
that way at all.
yeah. But I guess for me, in this lifetime, in this body, I have more of a quiet, like, introspective personality, and I
Okay.
was pushed around and controlled a lot and went through some trauma and abusive situations, which have made it extremely hard for me, even as a young adult, to get outside of myself and connect with the outer world. And so I think for me, that color was just a reminder of who I really am, who we all really are, but the passion and the unconditional
Mhm.
love and who I was beneath the surface.
I love that. That's really cool. And I think that that's a great segue to take us into your near death like experience because you started to mention that you were pushed around and held down in
Mhm.
your upbringing. So, do you want to tell that story?
I would love to. So I just want to make a note before I start with this that I have amazing parents. I have an amazing relationship with them, and they're aware of everything I'm about to say, and they're okay with it. But I was raised in a church environment. I was raised in Reformed Christianity, a really strict version of Reformed Christianity that taught some things. And this isn't a dig at Christianity either, but it really is in how it's presented, I think. But I was taught some pretty harsh things, that God had predestined most of the world's population to go to hell just to glorify himself, things like that. And that all people are worthless, undeserving of love, and God can't stand to have you in his presence, just different things like that, which really can do some damage to a developing child's mind, depending on how strong that child is in themselves. And that's what happened to me. I was severely depressed all throughout childhood and into my teenage years. I was suicidal as a teenager. I had severe anxiety. And so I had this one part of myself that had this deeper knowing that was driven by these memories that I had. And then the other part of myself that was very suppressed because of the religious environment that I was in. And the suppressed side of me won out for a long time. Although I was searching within my religion to find what I remembered and trying to understand. And of course, within religion, I was taught about God. And so my driving force in life was, I need to find God. I need to find this thing that I'm missing. And I looked in the Bible because that's what I had been taught. In the passage in Jeremiah that says, if you seek me and find me, if you seek for me with all your heart, you will find me. So that was my driving force. I have to find God. And I somewhere in this world, somehow I'm going to find this connection again. And I was constantly begging, please give me an experience. Please let me feel what I felt before. I know if I could feel that bliss again, this pain that I'm experiencing, this depression would just disappear. Even just for a few minutes, I would have peace.
Wow.
And so I prayed this for years and years, and nothing ever happened. And I just kept praying. And then one night when I was about 18 or 19 years old, I was laying in bed. I was praying the same prayer, begging to have an experience. And all of a sudden, I was in an ocean of love. It was just like 1 second I'm in my bed, the next second I'm in an ocean of love, just like that. So at that point, I perceived myself to still be in my body because I was still laying in my bed with my eyes closed, but I was completely caught up in these waves of love that were washing over me and through me. And it was like this force field of love all around me that was both an energy and a presence. It was obviously very much a presence with I don't want to say personality, but it wasn't just energy. It was like a person. And I instantly recognized it as what I had remembered and what I had been taught to call God. So I said, oh, it's you. Where have you been my entire life? I've been looking for you all this time. And what took you so long? And I instantly recognized it as my eternal father and mother. And I felt like I was just cradled inside a womb. It was the most nourishing and the most secure and safe environment that you could ever imagine. And it completely captivated my entire awareness. And I could have just stayed there forever. So I'm not sure how long that part of the experience went on, but at some point, my consciousness actually expanded out of my head, and I found myself somewhere up, I want to say up above the earth looking down, although I'm not sure exactly where I was, if there is even a where. At that point in time, I was aware of a presence next to me. I'm not sure now if I knew who it was. I can't remember. There's a lot of things about this part of the experience I can't remember, but I began asking questions, and I began
Mm.
asking every question that I had ever wanted to know the answer to. And as soon as I would think the question, I would receive this download of information, and it would be the answer to my question plus how that answer fits in with everything else in the universe. And I know that sounds like such a huge exaggeration, but that's really what it was. And as soon as I would get that download, I would ask more questions and get more downloads. And I began expanding at the speed of light. My consciousness was expanding and expanding and expanding, just like until I encompassed everything that exists, or everything that it was possible for me to encompass. I felt like everything that exists is inside of me, and I knew everything. And when I was at my most expanded, I saw the key to life, the reason why everything has to be the way that it is. And it was so ridiculously simple that I laughed at it and I said, how could I forget this? And then, so it's really hard. I'm sure you understand this, because it's like time doesn't work the same way. So on the one hand, I'm just expanding at the speed of light. I see the key and then it's over. But at the same time, I'm having all of these other experiences, like all of this information being downloaded and all these things that I'm being shown. And I do remember what two of them were. Most of them I couldn't bring back. So the first thing that I remember is that I was looking down on the earth and I saw that everything was made of brilliant light. And so the analogy that I was given is, if you have ever flown in an airplane on a stormy day and it's dark and it's cloudy, and then you fly up above the clouds and all of a sudden it's so bright because there's the sunshine, right? And you're right up there in the sky with it. So this is what this life is like. We're down here below the storm clouds, and the storm clouds are really any suffering, specifically the mental and emotional suffering that we create here is like the storm clouds. But when you awaken into an experience like that, you come up out into the sun and you can see the only difference is that from that state, you can look down onto the earth and you can see that the storm clouds are just an illusion. They don't exist at all. Everything is brilliant light, and the brilliant light is the creator. It is what we call God. It is that presence that created and is holding everything, and we are all a part of that, and we cannot get away from that no matter what we do, or no matter how hard we try. We are like toddlers stumbling around thinking that we could run away from mommy or daddy, but it's just unthinkable from that higher perspective. We are that. We can't ever not be that. So that was the first thing I was shown. And then the second thing that I was shown is I saw, and this sounds extremely cheesy, but at the time, the words I was given was God's cosmic master plan. And what this was how everything is ultimately working together for good. And so I saw from a very expanded state. It was sort of like, if you know how some people will use the analogy that if you look on one of those old quilts that they used to sew back in the day, and then on the back side it's all a mess because of the thread, but on the other side it's beautiful. So it was like that. It was like, from our
Mm.
perspective here, we can't understand why everything is happening the way that it is, and it seems like a lot of bad things happen. But from this extremely expanded perspective, looking down on it, it is absolute perfection. And so this I did see an image of. It was this huge, colorful, multi-dimensional Mandela pattern that was moving and shifting and very hard to describe, but it was perfection. It was everything working together for perfection. And it was like there was this current around the edges that was pulling everything back into love. So I saw that, and then I got sent back I was not happy about it, but it was like my consciousness contracted back in and popped into place in my head, and it felt like I was a balloon losing air. And as it was happening, I understood that the reason why I couldn't remember everything is because it's impossible for us to comprehend, because we're at such a low level here. I literally could not hold on to it. All the information just sort of fell out of me. But I knew that the reason I had had the experience was not to give me all the answers, which is what I wanted,
Of
but
course.
it was just a reminder that, and this is the big thing that I took away from it. Everything is proceeding exactly as it's supposed to. There is no, and this is what I was told. Some people don't like this, but there is no judgment. There is no reason to feel ashamed. There is no reason to feel guilty. I am like an innocent child with a loving parent who is watching over me and has everything under control. There's nothing I can do to mess it up. I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. And the divine, God, the angels, whatever words that you use, are so extremely proud of us for what we're doing here. We are held in the love. We are safe. We are secure. There's nothing that we can ever do to change that. And that was what I was supposed to remember. And that's what I was allowed to remember. So after I came back into my body, I felt this glow of love. That love stayed with me until I fell asleep. And then I felt this warm glow around me for the next couple of days. And then after that, it faded away. So that was my experience.
Melissa, I could spend about 3 hours asking you questions from that. So much there. One of the first things that you said towards the very end, I think can give a lot of people hope. So I'd like you to elaborate on this.
Okay.
You said, there's no way you can mess this up.
Yes.
So
yes.
why don't we expand on that thought? Because I think there are a lot of people out there that think, I'm really screwing this up.
Yes, I would
Just who
love
hasn't had
to.
that thought, like, what am I doing? Oh, I can't do anything right. And this is not working out. And my life isn't what I want it to be and how I want it to be. But to have the actual knowledge that we can't mess it up, what does that really mean for us?
Yes. And I will say first that I do that as much as anybody else, almost on
Me
a
too.
daily basis, I
Too.
think, like, especially as a parent. I'm like, oh, I messed that up. But from a cosmic perspective, things are so much bigger than us here in these bodies, in this life. This is such a tiny piece of who we are and of what reality actually is. And God or the universe, the divine, whatever word you are comfortable using, is infinite, so much bigger than we can imagine here, that he or she is just so much bigger than we can imagine, that you could make the worst mistake and just do the worst possible thing in this life and completely mess everything up. And it would just be like, what's the best way to put this? Let's say to you, it might feel like a mountain that you could never overcome, but to the divine, it is like a little anthole. He can work like with that vision I had of the master plan where everything is worked for good. There's nothing you can do that can't be worked for good. Everything is already good. Everything is already perfection, because from the perspective of spirit, everything is perfect.
Right. And I think we can't see what we're causing on a goodness level, like everything that has something dark or bad somebody else learns something from it, or somebody else takes it and makes something better in some way. And there's a ripple effect that we aren't privy to.
Absolutely. And that's just what I was going to say. To use myself as an example, some of the worst things that happened to me in my childhood that messed me up in this life were the best things that happened to me, because they gave me the chance to have that awakening, which is the experience that I wanted to have. And so absolutely everything can be worked for good. And honestly, we wouldn't come here and do this if there was any real danger. We can't actually hurt each other here. We can hurt our bodies. We can't hurt who we are. We're indestructible.
Right. On the soul level, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I wanted you to elaborate on, which I love this concept so much, and I'm a big fan of this, is that the other people on the other side, the angels and all the souls watching, are cheering us on because we are doing something extraordinary here. Why do you think we're doing something extraordinary from their perspective?
That is a really deep question. The first thing that I would say is just simply because it is so hard. This life can be so hard because we're experiencing the opposite of what we are, because we are oneness and connection and expansion and unity, and we are here in a body where we feel disconnected. We can experience loneliness and pain and rejection and all of these horrible things, and it is so hard for us. On top of that, we don't have the memory of why this is happening to us. So there's a lot of respect. And in my experience specifically, I was very depressed. I had mountains of guilt and shame on me because of the religious structure that I was raised in. And it was when I was over there, I was told, there's nothing for you to feel guilty about. You planned this. We have your back. You are doing great. And it is really hard to be there and do this. So don't be so hard on yourself. So that's the first thing. But also, as many near-death experiencers suggest, there's more going on here than meets the eye. We are here to learn lessons on an individual level, yes, but we're also contributing to the expansion of the universe as a whole. And I really love what Christian Sundberg says about this, that we're on the cutting edge of creation here, because when you come to a place like this, that's the opposite of your true nature, the opposite of what really exists. What you're doing is you're seeing, how far can I get away from my source and still be what I am? And as you do that, you make it stronger. You make love stronger. So we're contributing to the expansion and evolution of the universe itself.
Well, I think that that actually takes me into another question I have for you. You were on the other side and they showed you this version where you were looking down on the earth and you saw light and love and perfection. But that's not really what's going on down here. So were they showing you the potential of what could be? Or were they just showing you the perfection in what already was? What do you think?
What I was shown is that what I was given to understand is that I was being shown what actually exists. And so what I took away from it is that the suffering that we experience doesn't exist the truest sense, in true reality, in spirit. All that exists is perfection and light and joy. But it's almost like being in a virtual reality here, where we can see and experience things in a very real way that don't actually exist. But somehow even all of that suffering is worked into perfection and it ends up being good.
Wow. You know, when you were describing how we're down here on Earth and then we're get an airplane and we go through the clouds, and how that was the suffering, and then we see the sun and the sun is God. It made me also think that the clouds were also like the veil.
Mm. Yes, that's such a good point. Yeah, and I wasn't specifically told that, but it makes a lot of sense.
Right,
And
because it's always on the other side. It's always there. It's always vibrating and existing, but we can't see it, but they can see through it. They know what's
yeah,
going on.
exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, then you also, I want to kind of connect two dots. So you said that when you were younger, you had that pre-birth memory of love, and you said love felt like a tidal wave from that perspective in your childhood. And when you experienced this near out of body, out near death
Hmm.
experience, you said that the love felt like an ocean of love.
Hmm.
Were they two different things, or did they have some similarities and connection between your remembrance and what you experienced?
They were the exact same thing. When I had my near death like experience, it was instant recognition. But it's just that the love can manifest itself in different ways, and also using different words to try to describe what it feels like, because there's no language that really describes it, as you also know from your experiences. But
Mhm.
um in my near death like experience, it felt like waves, so I describe it as an ocean of love that was washing over and through me. In some of my pre-birth memories, I experienced it as a hurricane with like columns of light swirling around me. I have a memory where I was in this really serene ocean of light. So another word that maybe you could use is like an explosion of light and love around you. And I've heard some near death experiences use words like, somebody said, a waterfall of love, an endless waterfall of love.
Wow, that's beautiful. You also mentioned that everything was happening inside of us. So can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I think that's a concept most people will have a hard time wrapping their head around.
What are you referring to when we were talking about like the virtual reality where,
No, when you were talking about being on the other side, you said that the information you were receiving seemed like everything was actually happening within
oh,
us.
yes, when I was at my most expanded state, I
Yeah.
experienced that. It's 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 interesting because I was still me. I never lost my sense of self or my memory of who I was, but at the same time, everything else was a part of me. And I think that is a reflection of the truth of oneness, that when we're not in these bodies, we are ourselves, yes. And I think there's this tension between our individuality and our connection with the whole, because really, in one sense, we're all the same being. There's only one being, and it is God.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's that tension where we can experience both of those things at the same time.
Which is so hard to wrap our human
It
mind around.
is. It is. If you haven't had the experience, it is.
Right, right. Okay, so you have this experience, you're 18 years old, and you're still ingrained in all of this
Mhm.
religious doctrine, and you don't tell anybody about this for many years. But as you are moving through this, does your life change in the ways that synchronicities are more noticeable to you after that?
Yes, the main takeaway that I had from my experience at the age of 18 or 19 was, I just want to feel that bliss again. Typical teenager. And I went in search of it, and I had a lot of experiences.
Mm.
I had some supernatural healings happen in my life. I had some direct communications where I would ask the divine questions and get answers. I had a lot of signs and synchronicities at that point in my life.
So why don't I think for people out there who want to have this connection, and maybe this is new for some of you that are watching and you haven't had these experiences of synchronicities, and it's very easy to wonder, am I making it up? Is it something I'm just noticing? Am I seeing something I just want to see? Can you explain your process of how you ask, and then
Mhm.
maybe some example of an answer that you receive so that people can understand how this works?
Absolutely. So
Okay, I like that. That's helpful, I think, for a lot of people. Can you share some other life-changing synchronicities?
mhm. Yeah, a lot of times I will also get guidance in my dreams. So I think that's
Mm.
probably been the biggest thing for me. I will, if there's somebody that I'm supposed to contact or check in on, I will dream about them. And if I don't do it right away, I will dream about them again. The biggest key for me has always been that I have to believe. I have to believe that it's possible. And so I typically, if I'm asking for guidance or I'm asking for an answer, I'm not going to get an answer if I'm in an emotional state, if I'm angry, and that's okay. I mean, I've had my times of being angry and yelling and praying in that state of consciousness, but and the divine understands that, but I've never gotten an answer that way. So what I've always had to do is just be quiet, get into a place of peace and connection with my heart,
Mm.
and believe that I'm connecting, believe that there's someone out there who cares, who's listening, who wants to guide me, and that they'll guide me in their own way because they know what's best. And then ask the question, and you really want to listen within yourself. And for me, and this is just me, maybe for other people it works differently. If I'm getting a real answer, a real guidance, it's like it just happens. It's sort of like those experiences. It's not something that you're anticipating or you have any control over.
Yeah.
If I'm thinking, if I'm using my mind to think about this or that, what if they say this? What if they say that? Then it's probably not the divine guiding me. It's probably just me getting in my head.
Wow.
There was a specific person in my life that I was very close to, and we had a great relationship, and I kept having dreams about this person, and in my dreams this person would be like crippled and leaning on me, and the message would be, you need to make sure you're there for this person because it's an important relationship and you're going to need each other. And I would just brush it off because I thought, well, that's not an issue, like look how close we are. And I had this dream like 7 or 8 times.
Wow.
And then um quite to my surprise, when I went public with my deconstruction, of course, that I lost a lot of people, and that was one of the people that became very um, antagonistic towards me. And it became really clear at that point, this is why I had those dreams, because it's a difficult relationship, but it's necessary in some way because I need to learn something from them and they need to learn something from me.
Mm. Wow, that's incredible. Do you write your dreams down?
I do when I think of it. I'm trying to do it more often now, but I didn't for a long time.
Wow. So you have had these experiences and you're on this path. One of the things that I like to talk about on this channel is about aiding people to empower them so that they can have a life that they're in love with. And
Mhm.
part of that for a lot of people seems to want to understand what their soul's purpose is. So in experiencing this, were you able to get information that kind of helped you understand what your purpose is?
Mm. I would say, yeah, the information that I got really strongly and that I've sort of always had, even as a child with all these different experiences and memories that would come through, is that it's all about love. Everything is about love. And if you can simply love the person that's in front of you at any given point in time, your purpose will unfold without you having to try to figure it out. And that's exactly how it's worked for me, because when you're loving whoever or whatever's in front of you, you're just focus on loving everything. um your life just explodes with joy. Everything becomes so beautiful, and all of these opportunities just open up, like so many opportunities that you couldn't even do them all if you wanted to, will just begin, and love will just multiply in your life, and your purpose will just unfold in front of you. At least that's been my experience.
Wow, I love that. So, for people out there that are watching, obviously not everybody gets the ability to have an experience like you've had. And so we are very human. And I think it's important for people to understand that you have your bad days also.
Oh, yes.
So, can you explain kind of the practice of what you do to try to help you stay connected to this
Mhm.
experience that you had? Because you said it's hard to retain.
Absolutely. And I think that is such an important point. I have my bad days. I have strings of bad days. I still deal with stuff from my childhood. Specifically, recently, I've been dealing with a recurrence of anxiety, and I've had to be really intentional about staying grounded and connected. So I find that everybody says this, but it's so true. Meditation is the most important thing that you could ever do for yourself, both for your own mental and emotional health, but also to connect spiritually. And if you can just set aside even 10 minutes a day in the morning or at night and put on some music and get into a creative frame of mind and connect with your truest self, your best self, who you know you are and who you want to be, and just envision that and embody that and feel that, just make it real in your feelings. It will um give you so much energy and so much direction for the rest of your life.
So there are a lot of people out there, I'm going to be one of them. I can't meditate. I've tried to make this a practice. It doesn't matter if I got 50 hours of sleep, I would probably fall asleep in a 5-minute meditation. So for a lot of people that are watching, they're going to be in the same boat where meditation is not either going to be something that they'll put into their life because of the time it takes, or maybe they're like me and it just hasn't worked. So can you give us a few examples of some other things that people can do beyond meditation to help facilitate these feelings and kind of keeping your energy at a vibration that you want it to be at?
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it, is that there's never just one way. There's
Right.
always multiple ways to
Yes.
achieve the same thing. So, I mean, and even with meditation, there's different types of meditation. And the
Yes.
type that I was just specifically referring to is more like visualization. So maybe if you could, like, not the type where you have to try to quiet your thoughts and all that, but um imagining and being intentional about um imagining and creating that life that you want, or that person that you are, and embodying that. But other things you can do, probably the most simple, is just going back to love again. Just stop throughout your day a few times to remind yourself of what's in front of you, and say, if it's a person or a situation or a room or a place, think about how much you love that person or how much you love the room you're in, and create a story around it for yourself. I say you're in your kitchen, and think about 5 reasons why you love your kitchen and why you feel so safe and so comfortable there, and what you want to create out of your kitchen, and just get imaginative with it. Or if it's a person, how much you love this person and how thankful you are for them. Or if it's a situation in your life, maybe even a difficult situation, like, how can I reframe this so that it's not weighing quite so heavily on me, and just practice love. Like, loving everything is the quickest way to find that divine connection.
Wow. I think that that's super, super powerful. And I think that that's something that people can easily integrate into their life. Just little thoughts
Yeah.
of love throughout the day.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, you have given us so many nuggets, so many things to think about. I am so thankful that you were here today. Can you leave us with one last final thought.
Absolutely. And I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot here, but this is really the core of my message and what it's all about. It's all about love and all the things that we're experiencing in the world today. The answer is love. It may seem very simplistic to a lot of people, but if we could each just learn how to love the person that's next to us, we would solve the problems of the world overnight. If we can come together and we can just value each other in our differences, that is the only way forward for us right now. And I want to spread that message to as many people as possible. You are so much more than you feel like you are in this body. You are a powerful, magnificent, brilliant, divine being, and your power is in your heart center. It is in your third eye center where you love and then you create out of that love. So we all have the chance to do that, even in the smallest moments of life, even if it's just sending somebody some loving energy or wishing them well or smiling at them. A lot of times the smallest things are the most powerful, and we all have the ability to do that. So that's what I would like to say.
You made me cry. That was
Aw.
That was beautiful. And I want to say, I love you. Thank you so much for spreading so much love in the world and for your amazing podcast. I hope that people will head over to your channel and check out all of the great videos and all of the little nuggets that you share from your experiences. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Thank you so much. This has been so much fun, and you asked such great questions. I really enjoyed this.
Me too. Me too. This is like the best part of my day.
Yes. Yeah, me too. Definitely.
Next up, check out this playlist of other NDE interviews. Please like and subscribe. It really helps this channel to grow so I can bring you more content. Thank you for watching. I'm so glad you're here.